Welcome to 6th grade math. Today we are learning about integers. Our goals for this video are to identify positive and negative numbers on a number line, state the coordinate of a point on a number line, and use an integer to describe a quantity in a real-world situation. Before we get started, let's review positive decimals on a number line. Do you remember how to plot decimals on a number line? Plot 2.4 or 2 4/10 on a number line. So I want you to remember how numbers can be broken apart or at least separated on a number line. So you can see that they've listed your wholes down below. And then between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces, or 9 ticks. So there's 10 spaces. That means that each tick mark represents a tenth. Okay, so this would be 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way up, and this would be 1.9. Okay, I don't really have enough space to list everything, but we are looking for 2 4/10. So that means we're going to start at 2, and then we need 4/10 past that. So 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. So you would put your dot here, and that represents 2 4/10 right here. Okay. So let's talk about what an integer is. You may have always seen number lines that just start with 0, like on the previous page, or this one is only positive numbers, okay? But number lines continue forever in the positive direction and in the negative direction. Numbers to the left of 0 are always going to be negative. Numbers to the right of 0 are always going to be positive. Negative numbers have a negative sign in front of them. It kind of looks like a minus sign, but the way that you pronounce these numbers is -1, -2, -3, -4. You don't have to say +1, +2. You can just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 0 is right in the middle. It's neither positive nor negative. Okay. It's neutral. But it does divide your positive and negative numbers, and it helps you also determine the opposite of something. Okay, we'll talk about that more later. So this is a integer number line, negative numbers, positive numbers. Positive is always going to be above 0 or to the right. Negative is always going to be below or to the left. Now, two numbers are opposites. I'm sure in your life you have learned what opposites are: hot and cold, tall and short, big and small. Okay, so same with numbers. Opposites are very similar, but they're opposite directions from 0. Okay, so the opposite of +3 or 3 is -3. Okay, because they're both 3 spaces away from 0, but in opposite directions. 3 is to the right of 0, 3 spaces. -3 is to the left, 3 spaces. So those are opposites. So take a second, pause this video, and help me decide what's the opposite of -2, what's the opposite of 7, and what is the opposite of 0. So opposite of, here's a -2 right here. You can see that -2 is 2 spaces to the left of 0. Therefore, +2 is going to be the opposite because it's 2 spaces to the right. And again, you just write 2. You don't have to put a plus sign or anything like that. What is the opposite of 7 or +7? That would be over here, somewhere to the right of 5. Okay. So if I want to go to the opposite, instead of right 7, I need to go left 7. Therefore, the opposite of +7 is -7. And then 0, did I trick you? The opposite of 0, there's no opposite. It's just 0. Okay. So 0, there's really no opposite. Because remember what we talked about, 0 is not positive and it's also not negative. So what is an integer? Okay, the set of whole numbers is your counting numbers plus 0. So it's what you learned, maybe in kindergarten when you learned how to count all the way to 100. The amazing thing is there's an infinite number of whole numbers because you could count on and on forever because numbers are infinite. Integers is all of those whole numbers that you already know, but we're just going to add on, and they're opposites. Okay, so really there's twice as many integers as there are whole numbers because now you don't just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. You also have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, on and on and on forever as well. So in both directions. So again, they are whole numbers and also they're opposites. Okay, they have to be whole. So no decimals and no fractions. Some of you are like, yay, finally. Integers are whole numbers that are positive and negative. So which of the following is not an integer? Well, remember, no decimals. Any other decimals? There's one. There's one. Okay. A variable. We don't want any letters right now. Pi, you probably know this. Pi is a never-ending number, but a lot of people just say that pi is 3.14. So pi is not a whole number, therefore it is not an integer. Okay, no fractions. Now this one might be a little bit tricky. 4 divided by 2 or 4 over 2 is the same thing as 2. So that one's fine. Same thing here, 16 over 4, 16 divided by 4 is just 4. So those are good. Everything else is a whole number. 0 is fine. -2 is fine because it's a negative whole number. Same thing here. So every other thing is an integer. Okay, practice problem 1. Place 0 and -7 in the correct places on the number line. That should say in the correct places on the number line. So I know that -10 is here. Let's see if this is -9, -8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is what I'm thinking. Let's make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Okay, so there's 0. And then -7, again, is you could either go from 0 or down from 10. 9, 8, -7 is right here. Make sure that your negative values are to the left of 0 on the number line. So up here would not be correct because that would be +7. Okay, let's write some integers based on real world problems. So what integers represent the situations below? Remember that you're going to have to think about negative numbers, positive numbers, or 0. Jim gains 5 yards on a football play. What does gains mean? Okay, gains means he goes forward 5 yards. Therefore, that is +5. And again, you just write it as a 5. The elevation of Death Valley, California is 232 feet below sea level. Okay, if you were to draw a picture, sea level would be 0, mountains and stuff would be above sea level, and then some valleys, things like that are below sea level. So below tells me that it's -232. The rent for an apartment goes down by $35 a month. Down tells me that that is -35. So before you leave, make sure you can identify positive and negative numbers on a number line, state the coordinate of a point on a number line, and also use an integer to describe a quantity in a real world situation. Thanks for watching.